Welcome back to Sports Blitz Live. Luke Robinson here, now joined by a very special guest, Scout.com Steve Robertson, who is the Southeastern Recruiting Analyst for Scout.com. Steve, how are you doing today, bud?
I'm doing tremendous. How are you guys?
Doing just perfect, and thanks so much for being with us. I know you're on your way to coach one of your son's baseball games, and we certainly do appreciate your taking the time out to talk to us, because recruiting really is like a sport within itself, especially in these parts, and you know all about it in the southeastern side of the United States specifically.
Yeah, but and the thing about it is, nowadays with recruiting coverage the way that it is, there's just no downtime. Used to, you'd have recruiting season is what you did between, the end of the bowl games and signing day, but it's not like that anymore. I mean, it's become such a well-received industry with the internet and the explosion and instant media that there's just never any downtime. You go right from signing day into the junior days into the summer camps, and next thing you know, we're playing football.
You're exactly right. Well, listen, let's jump right into it and talk a little bit about Scout.com's rankings. One guy that's gotten a lot of buzz in this area has been Auburn commit Zeke Pike, the quarterback commitment, I should say, out of Kentucky. And apparently Scout.com doesn't have him as highly ranked as some other services. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't hear the name. You broke up there a second.
Zeke Pike from Kentucky. I was talking about how Scout may not have him rated as highly as some other services. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love him. And the thing about Zeke is he fits exactly what they want to do with the quarterback position. Gus Malzahn has had a history of developing quarterbacks, all the way back to his high school days, at Springfield High School there in Arkansas. But, Zeke made an early decision. He's been on fire, for Auburn and trying to help recruit and complete that class. But, I'm excited about him just from a leadership standpoint. Certainly he has, the physical tools you're looking for, but also as a leader to kind of have the intangible things, the things away from the field that you're looking for in a quarterback to kind of help lead that program. And I think that's the main reason that Auburn people are so excited about him. It's just that he's not just a guy with a good highlight tape. I mean, he's kind of the total package in all aspects.
What's your take on some of the more interesting names that are out there, specifically Barry Sanders Jr.? What do you think about him, and how close is he to being as talented as his father was, do you think?
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of unfair expectations placed upon him. And, we were in San Antonio for U.S. Army, and Barry was just getting over an injury, so he didn't work out that day. But, just watching his tape, he certainly has his dad's vision, and he's a guy that's going to come in, with a lot of expectations, but also a lot of potential to kind of hit the ground running. And I definitely see him as a BCS caliber back. It's going to probably be a starter probably after a year or two of him getting to know the system. But he's very, very, very talented. I think it's one of those things where people need to kind of understand him as Barry Sanders Jr. and not Barry Sanders II. And kind of let him be his own prospect and not place any undue expectations upon him.
What about Alabama and some of their commitments? Let's talk about Eddie Williams, for instance, the kid out of Panama City, I believe. And I've seen some of his tape, and he seems like a phenomenal talent.
Yeah, we've got him ranked near the top, position-wise in the country. And, we just had somebody down there to go spend some time with him and do some video interviewing. And the thing that Rachel came away with was, number one, was, how unassuming the guy is. He's not a guy that's bought into this hype or he feels like he's got to live up to certain, parameters of the recruiting hoopery that goes on from time to time. He's a guy that just wants to play football. And he's excited about Alabama. And with Nick Saban's ability to get people to the NFL that play in the defensive secondary, he's a guy that's bought into what's going on in Tuscaloosa. And I think he's going to be the next great one. I know Alabama people really like Mark Barron, but I really think that Williams has a chance to be better.
What about Alabama's chances with Gunnar Kiel? A lot of folks think he could make his decision relatively soon, maybe within the next week or two or 3 weeks. And it seems to be down to Alabama and Oklahoma. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the consensus right now, and LSU is kind of a dark horse in that deal, but I really think it's going to boil down to Alabama and Oklahoma. This is a national-level quarterback-type recruit, a guy that has a chance to come in and play for national championships. So he wants to find a program that's at that level. He doesn't want to be part of a rebuilding process. He wants to find a place the pieces are already in place to compete for big things early on. I think Alabama has a great chance there. I wouldn't rule out Oklahoma, but I really like Alabama's chances.
Well, Steve, one thing that you are very lucky in your industry is that you always have something to write about. You're probably covering the biggest hotbed of recruiting in terms of regions in the United States, that being the Southeastern region. Then you're focusing probably on the Southeastern Conference, and then you're right there in Baton Rouge, so you're dealing with the SEC West a lot, which in my opinion is like a whole conference to itself, that SEC West, when you've got Alabama and Auburn and Arkansas and LSU, four fantastic recruiting staffs going head-to-head. Talk about the intensity of those four teams.
Yeah, and it's the whole league, but you're right. The SEC West last year, arguably was the most dominant division in all of college football. And that doesn't stop just when the bowl games stop. And that carries over to the recruiting trails as also as the summer camps. I mean, there's record numbers of kids going to these camps every year because they know that something special is happening with these programs. I mean, Arkansas is coming off one of their dream years. LSU is picked to be a BCS bowl game contender this year. Alabama won it 2 years ago. Auburn last year. So it's almost like a murderer's row of sorts. In the SEC West, and Arkansas may be kind of in a transition year this year, but Petrino's recruiting well, and he's kind of expanded that talent base there. I think you're going to see some good things there. And also, Mississippi State won the Gator Bowl last year, and I think Dan Mullen's got those folks there excited. And, they're ready to go this year. And Houston not always seems to play best when his back's against the wall. And I had a guy recently made a comment that when he was at Arkansas, he either played for the West or played for his job every single year. And some of his better teams were when he was coming off a losing year. And certainly they've got some things to overcome this year, but, I wouldn't be ready to write off anybody in the West this year. I think it's really a land grab this year, and whoever gets those early wins is going to be the leader. Okay,
this is a loaded question, but Alabama, LSU, or Auburn, who do you think finishes the best in the scout rankings in terms of recruiting once signing day comes around in February of 2012?
Well, I'd like to say that Auburn's probably going to have an early lead, but when it's all said and done, I think Alabama will finish on top. And the reason that I say that, there's a couple things that kind of help Alabama right now. They're always kind of rooting head-to-head against Auburn, Tennessee, and Georgia. And I think with the uncertainty of the situation at Georgia, Alabama has a chance, to get in there and steal a few recruits. And if you look at the commitment list now, they've already got, 6 kids from the state of Georgia already committed to Alabama. So we're starting to see some of that already. The people see what's happening in Alabama, and the staff there is, they've got a lot of continuity, and they're not going anywhere, and there's a lot of uncertainty in Athens. Then you throw in the NCAA investigation at Tennessee. There's some kids there that Alabama's in the mix for, like an Andrew Jelks, offensive line guy there, and a few guys throughout there that ordinarily might go to Tennessee. And a lot of those guys are kind of waiting to see how serious these allegations and these sanctions are going to be. And then you've got all the Cam Newton stuff, and there's still a lot of people don't want to talk about that, but there's still a lot of rumors, I guess you could say, about some of the things that have gone on there, true or untrue. That conversation is happening on the recruiting trails. And then there's Alabama kind of in the middle of all this saying, you know what, hey, we're good. We don't have these issues here. And so it kind of shapes up to be a perfect storm in Tuscaloosa because those guys have a chance to have a big year this year, but also they don't have the off-the-field drama to have to deal with when it comes to recruiting.
And then finally, this last question, a name that really pops up a lot on recruiting circuits, probably a consensus top 5 guy, at least by every list that I've seen so far, and that's Dorial Green Beckham, the wide receiver out of Missouri. And his name has been associated with both Alabama and Auburn. Where do you think DGB ends up?
Yeah, he's a guy that's a little bit of an enigma. He's taken some weird visits. He's visited some schools that he really has no intention of attending. And I think Alabama's in the mix for him. Arkansas thinks they have a chance for him. We'll see. They kind of have that pass happy scheme that Greg Childs has been so good in. He's going to go to a team that's got a chance to win a championship early. He's an NFL caliber prospect. He's a guy that Barney should certainly be a son of talent. I like him to Alshon Jeffrey. He's a difference maker from day one. He's a guy that makes everybody on offense better. And you're right, he has mentioned Alabama and Auburn. I think at this point it's probably too close to call. but Alabama and Auburn both are going to be in the mix, and I would suspect both will probably get official visits before he makes a decision.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for being with us, bud, and good luck on your baseball game this afternoon.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
That was Steve Robertson with Scout.com, the Southeastern recruiting analyst for Scout.com. We certainly do appreciate his being with us this afternoon. We'll be back in just a minute with more Sports Blitz Live.